Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. As always, I'm super excited to be here with you today, and we're going to be discussing a really incredible topic. So again, to reiterate, welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And of course, we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Today, we're diving into one of the deepest, most fascinating mysteries of the cosmos, the interstellar object 3I Atlas. Since its discovery, 3I Atlas has confounded astronomers with strange trajectory and behavior, followed kind of like the footsteps of Oumuamua, which, if you remember, that happened not too long ago. It turned out to be, I believe, a comet or an asteroid. It was some interstellar object, so they say. But that also sparked one of the biggest debates in modern science. So we're going to be asking, is this just a natural rock, or is it really a piece of alien technology? But we aren't just here to talk about science today. We're going to try to decode what this cosmic messenger might mean for us here on Earth. We need to go beyond the telescope, which I think is brilliant to do. We need to question everything, right? Tonight, we have a truly unique guest who can explore this from all angles. His name is George H. Lewis, and he's been on our show before. He is an artist, a speaker, a modern day mystic, and an astrologer, and so much more. George blends factual inquiry with intuitive wisdom to help us understand not just what 3I Atlas is, but why it's appearing now and what its arrival signifies for humanity's place in the universe. So, with that being said, let me bring him on board. George.
Hello, Caroline. It's really lovely to be with you again. How are you?
Thank you. Good. And you?
Yeah, I'm really well. It's really nice to be back in the States. I was away for a while and I'm down in North Carolina at the moment, which is beautiful.
Oh, it's wonderful there. Wonderful place. My son lives in South Carolina. Really beautiful. Love the Carolinas. So glad to have you in the States.
Thank you. It's good to be back home.
Thank you. So before we get started, I want to just remind folks, pop in the chat, whatever stream you're watching us on. There's always a chat most of the times available and connected to the network. So do pop in. We love hearing from you. Hi, Eversource. So wonderful to see you. From time to time, I'm going to be saying hello to these folks because they're just brilliant. I love having them in the chat. So wonderful. Yesterday, we had tons of people in the chat, and I hope that happens again today. So, George, for folks that don't know too much about you, maybe they've never heard of you, and for folks, of course, listening as opposed to watching, tell us about yourself. You've such an amazing life. You're such an accomplished artist, too. Your artwork is absolutely stunning. I've been following you for years. I've had you on the podcast a few times. There's so much to you in terms of your creativity, your spirituality, your genius. So I'm going to step aside for a minute and just let you kind of tell folks, what brought you to this journey in your life, and tell us about your website and all the good stuff.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's difficult to know where to start because for me, I've always been, ever since I was a child, wanting to show and share the connection between we and the divine, between us human beings and the divine. And the greatest way to do that is through art. It doesn't matter whether it's through musical expression or painting expression or dance. I mean, everyone's got their own different way. That the very act of creation is part of the divine intelligence of humanity. And humanity is innately creative, but that innate quality has very deliberately over many, many, many years, decades, hundreds of years, been slowly squashed. So for me as an artist, it's difficult to describe oneself. I prefer other people like yourself to describe what I do, but I've always been fascinated with our connection to source creator, to God, to the divine. And I express that through art, through astrology, through astronomy, through sound therapy, through connecting through music, because music heals. Music is one of, if not the greatest art forms, because everything is frequency, everything is sacred geometry. I mean, we'll get into Three Eye Atlas in a minute, but you will see, we will begin to see just nothing is by accident. Everything is to do with the harmony of the spheres, the music of the spheres, to quote Pythagoras. Numbers, math is music. Architecture, for example, is frozen music. Music is liquid architecture. Once we understand the harmonics of creativity, then we begin to unravel and unlock the real essence and purpose of a life and
Mm.
of a solar system and of a galaxy.
And you're such an accomplished musician too. It's incredible all the talents you've been blessed with, and I'm not just throwing compliments your way. It's who you are as a human.
Yeah, I think, I mean, without getting too galactic, I've never felt 100% from here. My journey has, and I think I speak for so many of us, actually. I mean, truly, in that sense, I see myself as actually the new normal, because when we're open and honest and authentic about where we are, human beings are hugely creative, and so few beings are able to express that divine essence. I mean, we could list the laundry list now. We all know it. Paying the proverbial mortgage, holding down 3 jobs to survive. I mean, and it's very deliberate, that whole Saturnian Saturn system.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so for me, I would say I'm a master of archetypes. Why? Because it's the best way to get the ball over the net very fast, as to why you, me, and civilization has been kept under wraps and suppressed. And so the understanding of Saturn straight off the bat, you get to understand what the Saturnian matrix has done in the psychological sphere, which of course flows down to the physical sphere of bondage. So,
Absolutely.
because I feel I've had understanding of non-terrestrial stuff for a while, I feel this is a time of massive ascension, and the Three Eye Atlas is here to help us. I believe it's a catalyst. And I don't
Mm.
know that. I don't know that in material form, but I'm not on a physical spaceship looking down. I'm not part of the secret space program. No, I'm just George here sitting in North Carolina. But my intuition, because I eat organic food, I drink structured water, and I'm more connected to source, which I like to show everyone else how to get there, because it's been a
Mm.
journey for me, and much like it's a journey for you. Then we can start to unravel and reconnect to our power base, which is the divine intelligence, which is true humanity's source codes and true humanity's destiny, if you like, to be connected in a way that is activated as opposed to suppressed. It's the Uranian archetype in this regard as
Mm.
opposed to the Saturnian.
Yeah, gosh, that's so beautifully said. And I think, especially in these times, people are becoming not only spiritual awakened, but they're aware. They're aware of what's happening to them as humans. And I think there's a distinction between becoming spiritually awakened and aware. To me, they're like almost two separate things. You can become one without necessarily becoming the other. And I
Yes.
think a lot of people are becoming both, which is brilliant. But I think a lot of what you said is so gosh darn true. The way the system is structured, it gets in the way of our spiritual growth. Um, and that's really sad in a way because a lot of people don't have the time to eat organic or the resources or to drink structured water. I mean, a lot of folks try. I try. I'm not always successful, but I do definitely put an effort in. What do you think we could do
Well, I
to
mean,
try?
it's increasingly what I'm teaching on my retreats, and increasingly what I'm doing with my podcast. I haven't got it to hand. Oh, I have. Sorry. Okay. Beautiful sunny day, North Carolina, cobalt blue glass. I
Mm.
created structured water, distilled water, and it doesn't always have to be, it can be from well. And I happen to put shungite in it to really energize it. And
Mhm.
then I put it into cobalt blue water and I put it in the sun for about 1 hour, minimum 1 hour. 2 hours is great. And the water is totally different. The blue cobalt creates vitamin B12 and it activates you. So literally, this is free. It doesn't cost us. We are reconnecting to source codes, to real divine knowledge, which me included. I'm just like Tom, Dick, and Sally here. We didn't know it a while ago because we
Right.
had forgotten it, because we had been de-educated from it deliberately. And
Absolutely.
today is not a history lesson with the Federal Reserve and the 1913, the sinking of the Titanic, or 1871, the
Yeah.
incorporation of the United States. I mean, we
Yeah.
can go there another time, but your listeners probably know a lot of that already. The point, it's been a very clever mission creep over many, many, many decades to get us to where we are now. And this is the Great Awakening. We got here at the 11th hour. Astrologically, we can talk about that. What does that 11th hour mean with the election of Donald J. Trump in 2016 and the first Q drop in November 2017? We can go through the whole list of why. But the point is, today, what is possible? Because when we really understand the symbols, when we read a symbol means to bring together,
Mhm.
symbolic to bring together, diabolic to split asunder.
Mm.
Really powerful, that. So
Very.
we become the symbologist. You and me, we become the symbol reader, the decoder. And
Mm.
when we start to understand it, and of course, David Serrada, for example, straight off the bat,
Mm.
has done some remarkable work decoding the mathematical formula of three-eye atlas coming in. And as an astrologer, I'm going to build upon that and show you, if we have time today, how amazing the alignment of this entity, this creative, bizarre thing. I'm going to call it a thing because it's definitely interstellar, it's interdimensional. We don't know what it is. It's definitely not a comet. It carries total intelligence, divine intelligence in my mind, because the astrology tells me that it does. The astrology never lies. And when I speak to my fellow Christian audience, I entreaty you, I put my hand on my heart and say, please take a deep breath with astrology and esoteric arts. No longer must we run away from it under the programming
Mm.
of the false matrix of religious control. Because I can tell you this for free, because I've sat next to them, that at the higher echelons of the slave class of humanity, they use astrology. Whether it's the
Ah.
Vatican, whether it's the courts of London, whether it's DC. I mean, look at the entire of Washington, DC was laid out in alignments, according to certain alignments, which we can get into another time. The point is, astrology is like the knife. We use it to, like the knife, you break the bread, you feed the family on the one hand in the light, or you use it to create some satanic ritual, some dastardly situation for a child. We have a choice. It's neutral. Everything in the universe is neutral, and it's down to how we engage it within polarity consciousness. Are we going to use it for the ascension of we the people? That is the American dream. That is the hallmark of the American experiment, of the New Atlantis, of the Republic of 1776, and now of the reactivation of the Second Republic, if you want to call it that, of the United States. And that's on the one hand. On the other hand, it is no, it's for elites, and everyone else is part of a slave class. I live in America. I'm an American because I believe this is a planet awakening, and we, the people, can partake in it. And we must, because we want to. Given the chance, given the choice, the human beings all want to partake in this, but we've got to move out of the trauma. We've got to get the structured water back in, and we've got to decalcify the pineal gland. We've got to start eating organic and not synthetic. And I know that sounds intense and there's a long laundry list, but we can do it because Tom, Dick, and Sally are all bringing something to the table now, to the party.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Few things. First, I'm having David on the show on the 21st, Serrata. So I'm so
Amazing.
excited. He's amazing. I'm so excited to have him on the 21st of this month. But um, you got involved in astrology kind of later in life. Maybe you could just give us a quick rundown of how that happened for you, because I found that to be very inspiring
Yeah.
for other folks as well. Tell us about that.
I mean, it's funny because from a conjunction perspective, it happened when Uranus moved into my ninth house. Now, to someone who doesn't know what that means, Uranus, sudden innovation, sudden new beginnings, ninth house, prophecy, philosophy, higher mind, internationalism, esoteric magic, religion. It's that whole area. So I'm an artist. I've been an artist all my life. I had a fabulous art studio downtown Chelsea, Manhattan, for a number of years. And literally, to cut a long story short, in came this man, 70-plus-year-old man, and with a Dali-esque cane, and spoke with a rather sort of posh Canadian British accent, said, "I'm going to teach you astrology, dear boy." And I kind of looked at him. I didn't laugh at him. I said, "Okay, prove it to me." You know, the skeptic, the British skeptic that I was, and I still am. And literally, after a couple of lunches with him, I was agog. I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my gosh, why doesn't everyone realize this? And it was like the archetypes came alive. And to fast forward, within a year, no, a year and a half, he turned to me after a year and a half and said, "I can't teach you anymore. You know more than I do. Off you go." And he never saw me again. It was the most bizarre mentorship. It came in like that, and it kind of left like that, the two bookends. And that's just my story. But, you know, since then, I've run with it in different ways. I've studied classical, ancient astrology. I mean, someone like Chris Brennan, even though I don't interpret it at all like him, he's an absolutely amazing astrologer. And I've learned from many other people, you know, YouTubes, but I've also just tapped into my I think knowledge from past lives, quite frankly.
Now,
And
there's different types, though, right, of astrology. Maybe you could just kind of explain the type that you practice.
yeah, I mean, I'm quite broad because I definitely do mundane astrology. Mundane means global. I practice global astrology. I want to look at the United States birth chart. I want to look at the United Kingdom's birth chart and understanding big events. But I do natal charts. I mean, I have a thriving practice reading for people, and I still love that connection. I mean, obviously, you know, I can't do it the whole time. I don't wish to do it the whole time, but I love, you know, I will probably read for 10 to 15 people a week, and it's just,
Oh, wow.
it's really, I learn so much, and the astrology never lies. So I do natal chart readings. I also sometimes can look at composite charts. So I often work with couples and family constellations too, to see where the energies are, to find the language, the common language when people have conflict, you see.
I
So
just wanted to show folks your website. Not to interrupt you, I apologize, but your artwork is absolutely breathtaking. I tried kind of perusing around here. You don't have too many examples. Where would they be? I know you have a few um, listed on here somewhere.
I'm kind of updating. I'm going to be updating my website in about a month's time, and I'm just starting to do that. I'm not very
Ah,
technical, and I'll be honest with you. If people email me, I can email them links. I've got special links depending on what they're interested in regarding the artwork. Like, for example, I've got work from when I lived in the Middle East. I was court painter to the Sultan of Oman for a few years, painting
I saw
landscapes,
that.
portraits, stuff like that. I painted the royal family in Bhutan another time, and I did a lot of astrology for, you know, some of the people there in Bhutan. That was amazing. So I have like different periods of my life, and I tend to share that. I'm quite private like that up until this point. I feel in a way art, you see, has always been very divinely inspired. And quite frankly, London and New York and the Western civilizations have been demonic. You know it, I know it. My
Oh,
art has
yeah.
never been well received in that because it's about spiritual enlightenment. It is
Ah,
antithetical to a Khazarian, Saturnian,
yeah. Yeah.
Jesuit. I mean, Sabbatean, as someone like Sacha Stone would describe it.
I was just thinking that.
It's antithetical to that because it
Yeah.
is about inspiration and it's about aspiration of the soul, of the journey. And so modern art since 1900, you know it, I know it, has been a shutting down of the expression of the soul. So there we have it.
I mean, they can kind of get a your artwork is just it's mind-blowing how it almost looks like like photography. It's incredible. It's I just had to show folks. So be sure and give George a visit over at his website there. And yes, Carrie, he does have a lovely accent. You do. It's so proper and British.
I mean, it's interesting, and I know that's true, and it is my authentic self in this incarnation. But, energetically and spiritually and philosophically, I've always been American, even before I knew really what that meant. I've never believed in the class system, even if I grew up posh, and I never felt I fitted in, because philosophically, I always felt there was something wrong, even without knowing. Do you know what I mean? Because we're all born into our environments. I
Yeah.
suppose it's also given me a lot of compassion, because
Mm.
we're all products of our programming. We're all
Yeah.
products of our environment. And I think in that sense, it segues on to the astrology, because Pluto, the planet of transformation, is in Aquarius at the moment.
Mhm.
And that means belief system, fixed belief systems. We are all being forced to totally go beyond our own belief systems, all of us.
Mm.
And it's powerful when we let go of our description or definition of ourselves through our own belief system. Back in the day, I'll give you an example. 10, 15 years ago, if you'd met me, I was a staunch monarchist. I would have believed in the king and queen, because that's how I grew up with my
Right.
family. And I don't question the fact that my mother and father, in the most beautiful way, support that. Because I've lived in America and I've asked questions, it's not even about the personalities. I'm not interested in that. The structure, the system
Mm.
does not support humanity going into the 21st century in the age of Aquarius. And I could speak at length about that. But there's an example of me shifting from one belief system to the other. And I am not that belief system. I'm also not the belief system that I hold now. That's just what I believe. There's a freedom in moving through learning, through
Yes.
wisdom, through the gates to acquire knowledge, the journey.
Gosh, that's so true. Because our belief systems evolve the way we do.
Mm,
And that's a beautiful thing, and it's a part of being awake and alive. We should have a talk about the whole bondage, like human bondage and how it began. We'll book a show like that in the future when you've got some time, because I know you know a lot about that. It's fascinating. From like the Rockefellers all the way, yeah, nightmare. But let's dig a lot into Three Eye Atlas. Um, I've been hearing some crazy stuff. I'm so perplexed. Like when Amawa Mawa came around, I hope I'm saying that right. I for some reason, I kind of knew that that wasn't um,
yeah.
a ship. I kind of knew it was an interstellar object. I just had a feeling, and I think that turned out to be true because it just kind of took a course and went about its way. But this is so different. Why does this feel different to a
Well,
lot of people?
Well, it's interesting you talk about, and I can't pronounce it either, Oumuamua,
Something
and
like
that was one eye Oumuamua, and that was in 2017. And then in 2019, there was two eye Borisov. And then
mhm,
this year, there's been three eye Atlas, interstellar comet. Now, what I'm interested by three eye Atlas, I like to look at numerology.
mm.
Do you remember the famous quote by Tesla, to know the secrets of the universe, you have to think in terms of 369? Do you remember?
Breeze, yes, 369. Absolutely.
So, follow me here. And this is the
Mhm,
symbology. And in a way, I build on David Sarada's work here. Because three eye Atlas, I, for example, is the ninth letter of the alphabet, much like Q is the 17th, right?
yep,
Three eye is 3-9 Atlas. And this is the final. And if you start to look at the conjunctions that this entity, this thing, and yes, it's interstellar, it's high frequency, meaning it's highly intelligent. I don't think we need to label it, but I will share the astrology with you now, which will give you goosebumps because it gives me goosebumps. So,
mm,
for example, if you go back, well, firstly, we've just had the perihelion. The
mhm,
perihelion is the closest conjunction with the sun, okay, which was October 28th, 29. And it was interesting. On that specific day, I had a nice little non-terrestrial experience myself.
mm,
And I know many of us have had our own versions of connections with orbs, with
yes,
again, things. And sometimes the languaging in 3D is hard, but I know I
mm,
speak for millions of us who are starting to have these experiences. So, for example, if you look at You remember the peace agreement that Trump signed in the beginning of October, the Middle East peace agreement?
Abraham?
Yes,
Abraham?
and that was a big deal. That coincided to the day with the conjunction of 3i Atlas with the planet Mars. Quickly to go into the archetype, Mars is the archetype of war. Is a destructive force. In astrology, it's known as the lesser malefic, and Saturn is the greater malefic. We'll get to that in a minute. Mars, and I believe, is because it doesn't have much of an atmosphere. It suffered some cataclysm at some point in the not too just distant far past. I mean, I'm not saying yesterday. I'm not even saying 1,000 years ago. I
Yeah.
mean, many thousands of years ago, but not, I don't believe, millions of years ago. I think it's more recent than that. And what is interesting is 3i Atlas is this highly intelligent entity that basically has come in from another part of space or dimension to help us with our planetary ascension. This is
Mm.
my belief. Again, it's based partly on intuition, but allow me to share the conjunctions. Atlas conjoined Neptune's orbit on the Ascension Day of Christ, 40 days after Easter, on, I think it was the 13th of June, 2023. Neptune is the hanged man in the tarot. It represents Christ consciousness.
Mhm.
It's that whole unconscious, the collective source of all things. It relates to music, the music of the spheres, and Christ consciousness. And then it crossed the orbit of Uranus on May the 6th in 2024. And that was the Ascension Day of Jesus in 1948, with the foundation of Israel, and 2027 in the future. It's also
Mm.
Buddha's birthday, May the 6th. A lot of this stuff can be found if you listen to some of David Sarada's work, okay? He's gone through that. But what I want to add to it is now as we move to the closer planets, and what you begin to see is the planets in exaltation. So, for example, October the 1st to the 10th was over Yom Kippur, and that was the closest alignment of Mars. And Mars was in Scorpio. Mars's rulership is Scorpio. We are talking Mars, very powerful alignment. That is not an accident. And that's the
Mhm.
Trump peace agreement. That is the Gaza peace plan. I mean, that's massive. And then it hits the bullseye of the sun on 20th to 24th of October, right through to the perihelion of October 29th. That's Muhammad's birthday. And then it goes to the November 2nd to 6th. We're right in that right now with the full moon
Right.
in Taurus, which you, me, and all of us have just experienced yesterday and today. We still feel the effects. And Venus is in her rulership in Libra. And more importantly, Venus rules Taurus, where the full moon is. This is not an accident. This is a massive injection of love, of Venus coming into the collective. Okay, we are reorientating the planetary alignments using the music of the spheres, the planets, in order to harmonize like a catalyst to us have a reboot. And then for the future now, because we're talking beginning of November, 3i Atlas does her closest point to
Mhm.
the Earth in December with the culmination around the winter solstice. And it comes close over Christmas Day. But what makes this so remarkable is that on the 20th and the 21st of December, there's a new moon in Capricorn. That means the sun and the moon come together, conjoined Mars. And this is the realm of Baphomet, the symbol of equilibrium of opposites, the hieroglyph of the arcane perfection, if you like. Okay, this is, the Baphomet Capricorn archetype needs a lot of realignment because it's been brought too much into the negative because of the Saturnian negative system of the last 100 plus years. That myth is being updated symbolically and energetically through 3i Atlas. Am I making sense? The Roman Saturn god, the Lord of Time, is being reconstituted into a higher realm of explanation of consciousness and of allegory and of symbology. And then later on, it goes beyond the asteroid of 16 Psyche, and then it goes and aligns with Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer. Jupiter currently in Cancer. This is fascinating. So Easter holidays of next March, April 2026, we're going to see Jupiter be aligned with this entity, and it conjoins the Night of Power of Islam, which is one of the holiest nights of the year for Islam. And it's to do with the last 10 days of Ramadan. It's fascinating. All these holidays are lining up because religion has kept us in a very low frequency because it hasn't been the true religion. And we have to integrate understanding the galactic to bring out the Christianity, to bring out the positive Islam, to bring out the positive Judaism, to bring out the positive Hinduism, and all the faiths to unite into a new earth. And this is where we're all doing it together. No one's left. So the Jews have their heavy lifting, the Christians have their heavy lifting,
Mm.
the Muslims have their heavy lifting. We're in it together. That's exciting. And this, in my mind, is an energy, an energetic to help us on this trajectory.
Wow. I hope that there is some type of unification taking place because Christians are being slaughtered, especially in Africa. It's just tragic
Awful.
what's happening. And, it's so sad how something so beautiful divided us in such horrible ways, like religion has. I mean,
Yes, and Christianity has really been suffering greatly in
yes.
the last 100 years, and we could go into that profoundly now.
Yeah.
I mean, from Nigeria, the slaughtering to the Yazidis in the Middle East. I
Yeah.
used to live in the Middle East, and of course, the mainstream media's goal is not to discuss that. You know it, I know it, and the Great Awakening is putting a balance to that and getting rid of false narrative. And it's painful because a lot of that false narrative we Christians have to an extent believed in. And that's the journey work, for example, that Christians have. I consider myself a Christian, but it's going to be a slightly different definition to Christianity to,
Absolutely.
if you like, the pure Bible belt of, if you like,
Yeah.
southern United States. And
Yeah.
I've got to know some of those people, and they're gorgeous people, but they don't have access to some of that galactic, larger conversation. And what I love, bringing this back to the breath, when we take deep breaths and we observe our ego like Christ would have taught us to do, and we don't allow ourselves to lead through, I'm pushing my knowledge onto you, I'm sharing to acquire greater knowledge through Carol Ann, through her community. There's a sense of movement. You can see it in my physical form. There's a sense of
Absolutely.
journey work, that opening, the opening of the heart chakra, which is the Christed light. And of course, certain Christians get triggered by Christ consciousness because the New Age has co-opted it.
Mm.
It's very, very complex on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's actually very simple, that it's about the inside out, the inner work doing it, and the external side is the expression of that internal, as opposed to the other way around. And so with Christians, they've got a lot of there's a lot of tragedy which gone on, but it's being reactivated now. I actually see the entire world coming close to Christ consciousness in the long
Yeah.
term, because
Absolutely
it's not
agree.
about Christianity. That's, you
Right.
see, there's the link to my Jewish, Mohammedan, non-aligned brethren. This is way bigger than a label, way bigger than a doctrine, because the true Christ sitting here today would be all about the essence of being it, as opposed to the judgment, the Pharisee. In a way, we have to now, again, Mark 2, disassociate ourselves from the Pharisee, which is the doctrinal Christian telling us you should not do this. You can't look at astrology because it's demonic. That is
Right.
Pharisaic, you see.
And we've all been taught that. I
We've all
mean,
been.
I was warned as a young child because I had such a deep interest in esoteric spiritual things back then, and I was told not to talk about those things, don't read about them, and it's pervasive, and a lot of it still happens today. It's sad, but it's true.
It does. A lot of it does happen today, and I also think with where we're at, you see, with the world, and my mentor, I have a wonderful mentor, and she's Ashkenazi Jewish, but
Mm,
she's the one who's been teaching me how co-opted the world's been by a Zionist agenda, which needs to be also describe what that means, because it's actually not really about Judaism or being Jewish. It's a co-option of that faith. And so again, this is the unity bridge I offer today through the language of astrology and 3i Atlas, is we're having to unpack so much of the predictive programming that we've all been part of. And I am the poster boy of that programming within a British context. Top public school, which means private. I know that's confusing to Americans. Top private school, they call them public in Britain, educated in a very specific way, originally to run the empire. So, if you like, posh slave to
Yeah.
enforce the system. That's the translation.
Yeah.
And I've spent many decades now deprogramming myself, and I'm
Wow.
still not even halfway there. And that freedom to look you in the eye, and all of us in the eye, and say, wow, we've all got our own version of that from our own
Absolutely.
respective cultures, allows us to take that breath and actually start to enjoy the unraveling. And I, as a galactic cosmologist, know, in my own humble way, we are at the closing doors of the age of Pisces, and we're at the entry point of the age of Aquarius. That's a cosmic clock, because
Hmm.
astrology is a clock, because the music of the spheres, Pythagoras wrote and spoke about this, it is a clock. And when we are in Hunger Games, one of them, it shows the clock. They always
Yeah.
show it. They
Yeah.
hide it in plain sight, one of Q's
Absolutely.
posts. And so it's like we begin to see how it works. And for me, with astrology, if we get to a when not if when we get to a higher realm of consciousness, the astrology will become null and void, because it will have to ascend as we ascend. We have to understand the matrix of the astrology in order to collapse it, because it is slightly Draco-reptilian, with all the gods and the Anunnaki and, Saturn eating his babies. Of course it is.
Yes, absolutely.
And we
You
have
know,
to.
it's interesting
Well,
that you mentioned Draco Reptilian, because I saw a video the other day of a gentleman who remote viewed into Three Eye Atlas, and he said that he saw both. So it's a ship and a celestial object. But he said on board he saw, I know this is going to sound cray cray, maybe
no,
not.
no,
He saw 5 million Draco Reptilian
I heard.
soldiers. You
I heard.
heard that?
So my response to that is, I
Yeah,
don't know for certain. Here I am giving an
absolutely.
interview. I look all of you. I don't know anything for certain, but I understand the duality of reality and polarity consciousness, reality, the black sun, the physical sun.
Right.
If we choose the timeline of Saturn, if you like, of the Draco Reptilian, that spacecraft is going to be more physical, more 3 to lower 4D, even potentially lower 5D, but it's going to be that reptilian expression. If, on the other hand, we see it, and this is where I see it because of my connections and contact with other light beings. Palladian is one part of it. It's not the only
Mhm.
part of it.
Yep.
One's future self. The elementals. I come from Cornwall. I have constantly been surrounded by the elementals in my life. For those who don't understand that, that is the elfies, the pixies, the Tinkerbells, the orbs. These are the fairies. These are part of our reality, and they're coming back online because our consciousness is rising. The child archetype of the Puer Eternus keeps those expressions there and activates those energies which have been dormant in large parts of our planet for a long time. And so it's a really question of perspective. If we're going to see the fear, we're going to then vibrate back to our music on that
Absolutely.
frequency. If we see it, I mean, I understand Saturn, I understand polarity consciousness, so it's not that that man's wrong. I see alongside that something more powerful. So it's not to
Mm.
negate what he has seen. No, he
Mhm.
is right. But I have also seen something which, in a way, to bring the archetype of Uranus with Venus, the conjunction of Uranus with Venus. And of course, Venus is made from the sperm of Uranus in the myth. That is
Right.
Aphrodite. And so it's like that love, green heart chakra energy, which is the Christ energy, emitting the spew, the steam. I think it is. It's a mixture of water vapor or fourth state water coming out of this thing is actually helping us in our planetary ascension. For me,
Yeah, absolutely.
we
So
wouldn't have
so
we wouldn't have Venus in Libra, we wouldn't have Mars in Scorpio, we wouldn't have Jupiter exalted in Cancer. And I know that's a
Right.
lot of language for people who don't do astrology, but to any astrologer listening to that, they're going to have goosebumps, because you can't have that lineup astrologically if it's going to be negative.
When was the last time that happened? Do you know historically, like, what happened during that? No, no.
Before the Great Flood.
Oh, wow.
Okay, before the great, and here's the other thing is, I was listening today to a podcast talking a little bit about the Smithsonian and the hidden artifacts under the Grand Canyon and all
Yeah.
over Western United States. At the end of the day, in my heart, the old Atlantis is basically the Americas. Of course, it's parts of the Atlantic and other parts. Let's not get into Antarctica now. But the Americas carry the code of the Atlantis, hence the new Atlantis. And just quickly to share this, because I like my mundane astrology, and this is
Yeah.
goosebump territory. So when the United States was birthed in 1776 on July 4th, just remember where the sun was. It was in Cancer. And just remember what was conjunct the sun at that momentous time. Jupiter and Venus. Those are the
Mm.
both benefics, the greater and the lesser benefic. And guess what? Not only was Jupiter and Venus conjunct the sun, it was also conjunct our second star, Sirius.
Mm.
People who know astrology, astronomy, esoteria, are going to know that is deeply profound. And so this is not accident how the birth chart came, how the United States was birthed, and the unknown stranger, the unknown philosopher, and who that person was in signing the Declaration of Independence. Rather mystical who that saint was who came in. And then now we're birthing the Second Republic, and the alignment with this is of Three-Eye Atlas is also conjoined Jupiter in Cancer.
Mm.
It's not over the United States birth chart isn't lost on me. And yes, it's challenging, with what's happening in New York. To me, it's a pantomime. It's playing out. It has to play out for more and more people to see how dark communism is, because
Mm.
communism is a front for another thing.
Oh,
It's all been set up by the central banking system.
absolutely.
You know it,
Absolutely.
I know it, and that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's to divide us, just to keep the division and the fear, going, part of it anyway. But, yeah, Kevin, he remote viewed into Three Eye Atlas, and he said he saw 5 million Draco reptilian, beings in stasis. So they were in stasis. That means they were put in like a forced sleep. They weren't here to attack us. They were just there as we have our military to protect us. So it wasn't supposed to be like an aggressive, hostile thing. So yeah, Carrie, what were they doing on the ship? I think based on what I heard, um, they were part of the army of Three Eye Atlas. Did you hear any more about that, Georgia? Was that just basically what he said?
I don't believe that we are going to be invaded by reptilians.
No.
I have a very different um, belief, faith, understanding of
Yeah.
where we are on our timeline. And I sense that the grey Draco reptilian has all but been removed, as including the hive, because it's all part of the transhuman hive technology. And
Mhm.
part of our ascension now really is the realization that technology is neutral, but it has to be programmed algorithmically to support the divine human blueprint. And so for me, I'm very clear that on the one hand, we're at this battle between divine intelligence and artificial intelligence, between, if you like, Homo sapiens and the divine human on the one hand, and Homo genetic, the transhuman on the other. And we, the people, are very much on the side of divine intelligence, okay? At the same
Mhm.
time, let's talk about artificial intelligence. And this is potentially controversial to some people. I see it as neutral, much like I see the pentagram as neutral, much like I see the number 666 as neutral. But
Mm.
what has happened in our civilization is the dark forces have inverted
They
these
have.
technologies. And I know that to be truth. And I know that's quite forceful of me to say this. I know it in my soul. that these are neutral technologies. And again, it's down to the gun. I'm going to use the gun this time, not the knife. The gun. Do I shoot the deer and then I skin it to feed the family in the local town and then use its hide to warm us, to keep us warm in the winter
Mhm.
months? Or do I use that gun to murder someone in a satanic ritual? Again, choice. It's always down to the intention. And as we raise our consciousness, then we can use the technology in a way that is divinely going to support our needs. And to be a little bit crazy here, I have memory of other places that I've lived in other timelines where the technology has only supported the divine human blueprint.
Oh,
And I
nice.
believe that the human blueprint is intergalactic. I believe that you and me have natural DNA that is intergalactic. The difference is our DNA hasn't been fully turned on. The last Q post told us this about our DNA, what's in our DNA. And part of this is the great awakening, is to do with who we really are. And I speak for myself. We have not been told who we are. And when I come back on your show next year, you will know more about who you are, and I will know more about who you are, and we will know who, because it's a journey and we're all in this together.
Oh gosh, that's so well said. Sometimes it's frustrating because you wanna get there faster than,
Of
at least
course.
for me, like, I just wanna get there faster, and no amount of like, I have to just reiterate this story. When I was about 15, I was reading Cosmic Consciousness by Buck, and I was sitting on my front porch, and I was a young girl just getting into all this consciousness stuff, not really knowing. And I read this paragraph, and all of a sudden, I got like this download of information, and I literally left my body for seconds. For seconds. It seemed so much longer, but in fact, it was only seconds. I had no clue what that was, and I kept trying to make it happen again by rereading that paragraph, and it never happened again. It was just this instantaneous thing. Since then, I've always had this craving to have that moment back, so I stopped chasing it, and I figured if it's meant to be, it'll just come. And that's where I feel I'm at spiritually. Like I'm just waiting for that to come back. Whatever that was, George, I whatever it was brilliant.
Well, I think those moments, and we've all got our own versions of those
Yeah.
moments. Those are the epiphany moments. Those are the moments when the world stands still and
Yep.
we truly become the witness, the observer. And
Yes.
often it comes with a very deep sigh, a deep breath, right? The breath is
Mhm.
interesting in Latin, sospiro means breath. I've noticed that. I mean, when my two children were born, I noticed the first breath. It was massive. It was incredible,
Yeah.
that first breath of air. And I've been privileged and honored to be with two people to do a live funeral. They had cancer, and I was there when they took their last breath. It was equally powerful.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's a sense of, as we come in and as we exit the physical form, something is magical and mysterious.
Yes.
And I think when we have these mystical, magical moments, when we allow ourselves to observe, to stand back from the madding crowd, to just take a breath and witness, like almost now,
Yes.
that silence. I mean, it's interesting for me because when I listen to certain communicators, they speak much more slowly. And of course, that's an archetype, but as a musician, the music is really the silence between the two notes,
Ah, yes.
as much as those two notes. And so, yeah, this is part of the North Node in Pisces, and the North Node is what we're here to do. It's in Pisces. You can't make it up. It's cosmic. It's musical. It's a sense of spiritual reflection. It's the great unconscious, to quote Carl Jung. It's the Neptunian. It's the spiritual. And it's all about sort of radiance and
Mm.
remembering why your soul came here. And it's through that remembrance that you begin and you become more attractive because you share your own divine, authentic gift with the world. You
Yes.
align yourself and your soul contract with who you really are and what you came here to do. And that's my great journey, is to share, as I've learned this, to bring out Tom, Dick, and Harry's soul contracts so they can become more magnetic, not in order to control, but more magnetic because it's not about pulling people towards you, but it's about radiating from within so powerfully
Absolutely.
that you are so aligned with what you're here to do that people are attracted to you and they see, oh, I want to do that myself, and so you become um, a guide just by being, as opposed to be by saying.
Mm. You know, it's interesting how a lot of folks that I talk to either will not acknowledge the dark at all, the darkness of human nature, or they realize that it's a balance and that you kind of have to walk in between both worlds. And some say that like we're battery juju for some dark alien race, and we're
Mhm.
living in this simulation. How do you
Yeah, it's great.
juggle
Love it.
the
Love these questions. So let's firstly talk about the new age implant of there's no devil. That's been very cleverly done. Actually, it started in the Second World War, if not before, but it really started to take hold in the 60s and 70s. I mean, I can get into knowing literally some people from my background who were instrumental with the Royal College of Music in creating negative frequencies with the pop groups that they spent money on to invest in, the Rolling Stones,
Mhm.
the classic one. But here's the thing, the New Age movement was deliberately designed to take the devil and the darkness out of it. So you live in love and light, and as a
Right,
result, you live there, but you're really not engaged with the reality of our world. And so you pull yourself out of it. So the dark controllers can manipulate you because I say, oh, I'm living in love and light. I'm doing my
right.
yoga, but I'm not engaged with what's really happening on our planet. And again, for me, you see, this is why I'm so attracted to my home here in America. And for the many of you who don't know me, don't let the accent confuse you. I am an American patriot, an American citizen. I got
Oh,
my
yeah.
citizenship uh, 2 or 3 years before the pandemic. I'm forever grateful to that. And it was a wonderful experience. And my journey towards patriotism has grown hugely in the last 10, 15 years. I was brainwashed 15 years ago when I had a green card. I didn't
Mm,
really think much about it. I was neutral, but I've journeyed hugely because I
yeah.
think I'm similar to the collective. But on the new age thing, the devil does exist because polarity exists. And the more you see the darkness, the more, then going back to your second point, you can collapse it by being in the polarity, understanding that. Let's take Baphomet, the negative aspect of Capricorn. We have to bring Baphomet back into a more of a positive interpretation of holding the balance of the polarity. If you look at actually the origins of Baphomet, it wasn't always negative. It got very corrupted by Aleister Crowley in the late 1800s and early 19th century, early 19th century, 20th century, sorry, early 20th century. And so the whole story of the devil, it has been aggrandized or sidelined. And what we have to do as souls incarnate is understand the whole polarity. And then we have
Mhm.
freedom to choose. You see, when we're authentic, we have freedom to choose, are we going to
Yes.
do this in loving consciousness, or are we going to do this in negative fear? And that's the polarity.
Gosh, that's so true. I have to comment on Carrie said she can see into realms. I know there's some really good news from that side. And then this atlas showed up, and I'm told from spirit it's a good manifestation and that you are confirming that.
Well, thank you, Kerry. Is it Kerry or Carrie? Kerry. Yeah. I,
Carrie.
I feel that too, and it's nice to have the confirmation coming from you too, because we're all bringing something. We're all bringing a piece of the jigsaw puzzle together. I mean, that's really the highest expression of the age of Aquarius. If I really can, come down, nail into this, zone into this, is the high expression of the age of Aquarius. Is it's circular. It's we're all contributing our own divine way to something which we call civilization. There's no more top-down pyramid queen with handbags sitting on top anymore. It's much more about we the people. That's the upside of the Aquarian age. The negative, of course, is transhumanism and the suppression through AI negative technologies. But there are enough of us awake now in the Americas and in Russia too, and around the world,
Mm,
who are saying no. And the AI is going to I've already started to notice this on certain algorithms, not exclusively, but I'm beginning to notice that some of the AI is much more neutral now in what
Mm,
it's offering us as information than it was, say, 3, 4 years ago. And to me, that's a very good indication of the fact that these algorithms are changing while consciousness is changing. And I'm going to use the term, it's controversial, the white hats, because I
mm,
do have faith. I do have faith in a higher hand. I really do. And many people, and good people I know don't. And that's okay. It's like, I adore David Icke. I've learned so
yeah.
much from that man
Oh,
for
yeah.
decades, but I don't see it like that. I think it's partly because I'm an American patriot. I live here in America. I've studied Q. I'm on other podcasts with people who are involved in it. And to me, the hidden hand of the art of war is so important, to keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, to
Yeah.
understand the strategy that is involved in taking down a system that has been ruling our planet for thousands of years. You can't do it head on. It's Scorpio archetype. It's not Aries, meaning Aries goes ram in head first. Scorpio is
Mm.
pincer movement, strategy, moves, counter moves, and the whole 9 yards.
So, how does the Rei Atlas really navigate astrologically to affect the charts? Like, how does that? I mean, I maybe I'm not wording it correctly, but how is this celestial object affecting astrology and how you read it? Like,
Okay,
it's just a
so
rock, like many others,
no,
right?
no, no, I don't agree with that. It's not a rock. It's a vast energy system, and of course, I can't say definitively what I've seen from some of the videos or the stills are real because they could have been doctored.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I do sense this object has taken energy from the sun as it's come in and
I saw
harnessed solar
pictures of
energy.
that. I
And
don't know if it's fake or real, but it was kind of
well,
mind blowing.
I'm going to be really honest with you. Since my non-terrestrial experience during the perihelion, I was driving back from my friend Christian Northrup in Maine to somewhere in Massachusetts in the evening, and this amazing white orb, it was bright as the moon, came and hovered over my car as I was driving at
Oh,
65, 70 miles an hour. And I was transfixed by it. And of course, I was driving carefully, sensibly, but then I thought, okay, I'm going to open up the window and put my head out to look more. And as I started to do that, it had already been engaged with me for a couple of minutes. It realized, because it's way more intelligent than I am, it just literally left because I was
wow.
starting to be a bit naughty. My code of conduct was a little bit Uranian, and so for me, there are many personal stories where this energy, and as I said, the alignment of each planet with Three Eye Atlas is not chance. And I mean, David Soreda's work is phenomenal. You can speak to him about just the mathematical formula and the pi and the Fibonacci
I
lines.
saw his
It's
I saw his
unbelievable.
presentation. It was crazy.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. And of
Yeah.
course, one needs to listen. I mean, I need to, 'cause I'm fairly high functioning. I need to listen to that 5 times.
Yeah, exactly.
But the point is, for me, what I can give to you, which is a little different, is again, Mars was in Scorpio. Mars rules Scorpio. Venus is in Libra, and the alignment came when Venus is in Libra. Jupiter's exalted in Cancer. It could have been in any other sign. You have this massive lineup of power. So you're pulling the pure energy of that planet at its
Mm,
maximum capacity, coinciding with Three Eye Atlas. That's not chance. Now, interpretation is open, of course. And Tom, Dick, and Sally are all going to have different interpretations. This is just mine. But I get goosebumps because astrologically, this is very intentional. And this is no accident. And because it's positive, because of the alignments of, like, all the wars were stopped with Mars
yeah,
and Scorpio,
wow, that
when,
was
but think about it.
mind-blowing.
Mind blowing. I mean, to me, I say this is where I want to go. Wake up, everyone. Wake up. You know,
Exactly.
and you can listen to as much fake news as you want, but at the end of the day, if all the wars were being stopped and the peace accords were signed
Yeah,
when Three Eye Atlas conjoined Mars in Scorpio, which is the most warlike, it's a reconfiguration of the archetype of war, and we aren't going into permanent war. We're coming out of the phase of
yeah,
permanent
yeah,
war. We're reorientating now the
yeah,
archetype of Mars. We're reorientating the type. Let's take love. it's not going to be codependent like it has been for so many of us. And the empath often marries the narcissist and all this. And many people have written amazing books on this.
Oh, yeah.
Christian Northrup, of course, is the great expert on this, among
Oh,
many
yeah.
others. But the point is, we're learning to have better boundaries now with love, and alignment is so important. So humans are being upgraded through this experience, in my mind, hugely.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you that. Like, so we're going under this psychic upgrade or spiritual upgrade, right? So, and this has to do with the path that Three Eye Atlas is taking. So, why is it that I'm hearing, myself included, that a lot of us for the past few months are feeling, I want to use the word sad, but like something is missing from our journeys. I can't quite put it into words, but from folks I talk to, and it's not sadness, it's not depression, it's like something is missing that we're seeking.
Well, I think that's part of the sadness for the collective, because we all know so many people who aren't able to get out of their belief systems. I mean, I have
Mm.
many personal stories, and I know I'm like everyone else here. There's always someone in the family. Some of us may have many more in the family who chose to do things very differently. I
Oh
mean,
God, yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me not to make this personal in order to share the analogy, but it's like,
Of course.
I made very different decisions at the beginning of the pandemic. Of course, I call it a pandemic. I saw the rollout of the vaccines, very what the agenda was, and the people around me at the time saw it through fear and were the first to roll up the sleeve and go there. That's not a judgment. Now, from I've done the spiritual work, I'm doing the spiritual work. It's a different timeline, and so for
Mhm.
me, I think there's a lot of grief, collective grief amongst
That's what it is. It's
collective.
grief.
It's collective.
Gosh, exactly. It's grief.
And so on the subject of grief, which relates to the lungs, you want to then take like mullein, and you want to take, like dandelion root. You want to be able to take certain herbal remedies and drinks and herbal hot teas or tinctures,
Mm.
which help release the grief, because often it can be mucus built up, and that's when people get pneumonia. Is obviously a very extreme physical
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
manifestation of grief. But I mean, as someone who works in the healing arts, I also like to bring that aspect in. We're going to learn, when someone has lung problems, how to treat it energetically, not just physically, because Western medicine has done a very bad job, as we all know, of
Oh,
treating.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agreed. I have asthma, so I could agree with that.
Well,
And
Mullen will help you. I'll share with you privately some other stuff.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I have a theory as to why I got it at 16 years old. Usually people get that, as children, but anyway.
Well, in America, unfortunately, because of the GMOs and the cloud seeding, it's been
Exactly.
much worse. Asthma has become an endemic. It's become,
Absolutely.
it really has. And
Yeah.
there are ways to heal it. And
Tragic.
asthma, eczema, it's all related.
Oh, good. Brilliant. Brilliant. So, as far as shadow work, and again, because I'm so fortunate enough to get to speak to so many different authors and publishers and just different people in this industry, it seems like in the past, I would say 5 to 6 months, I'm hearing that term used more and more and more. Like, oh, I have to do more shadow work, or I'm doing shadow work every day. Is this from Three Eye Atlas as well, do you think? Or is this just our spiritual growth unraveling by knowing that we need to do shadow work in order to grow and heal?
Yeah, I mean, it is both, because even before Three Eye Atlas, many of us were doing the work, doing the shadow work. But Three
Hmm.
Eye Atlas, as I've already said, is a catalyst. So
Right.
Three Eye Atlas is helping humanity, in my mind, to speed up the process towards consciousness. Um, and I mean, gosh, I would say this, that there are events that take place in the 3D which shock more and more people into questioning. Great example was Charlie Kirk. And
Mm.
I'll give you an example. There was a percentage of people in Europe, and particularly in Britain, which was for me very rewarding to bear witness to, even though I wasn't in England at the time, where the assassination of Charlie Kirk woke up more people
Yeah.
to really the conspiracy. And when I say the conspiracy, the real conspiracy, not the fake CIA, let's pretend everything's a conspiracy to shut it down. I'm
Right.
talking the Draco reptilian on one hand, or if you like, the Khazarian Jesuit conspiracy, the control system of the central banking system through satanic magic to basically create a spell over we, the people, humanity. That is breaking down because people are questioning the power centers, okay? I think 3A Atlas is helping in that. And the other thing is consciousness.
Yeah.
When we start to consciously engage with the energy of 3I Atlas, when we consciously, I was teaching some sun gazing to a few people earlier today, when we consciously interact with the sun, and this is something we can do for free, ideally without the chemtrails, the sun will give you energy and information back. It becomes bidirectional. And the
Mhm.
more conscious we are, as Carl Jung once said, until we make conscious that which is unconscious, we will still call it fate. The
Mm.
whole point is we're really beginning to understand our reality. And
Mm.
and we're in the process, and it's a learning curve, and it takes time, and we need
Yeah.
patience. But it's exciting because I know so much more than I did 3 or 5 years ago. And in 3 or 5 years' time, and I represent everyone else, I'll know so much more. And that's kind of what the soul needs to have in physical form.
Absolutely.
That's kind of why we come here.
Absolutely. Speaking of the sun, I remember as a child, the sun was very yellow, very yellow. And it seems to have changed. What
It has.
accounts for that?
Well, I
And is
think
that my imagination or is that
no, it's mine entirely. And you're one of many people who've expressed the same feeling and memory as me. So this is terrific, you see, because this builds up really good circumstantial evidence coming from all sorts of walks of life,
mm,
experiential evidence, right? I remember it being much more yellow too.
yeah.
The light codes of the sun have got greater. You could argue that's why Saturn has wanted to dim the light. Obviously, there are many other agendas, but we don't. They didn't want to allow our consciousness. That's why they kept the Smithsonian all the information hidden. They've wanted to
Mhm.
express who we are, and so the sun. Now, if you get there without must never wear sunglasses, and you stand in front of the sun, ideally start in the early morning or later in the evening. You should only do it later in the middle of the day when you're really used to it, because you can't just go from 0 to 60. You have to practice like anything. But when you start engaging with the sun, it makes your eyesight much better. It
Mm,
opens up your pineal gland, your heart chakra becomes more open. I mean, I'm a great fan of people going bare chested into the sun because it's the heart chakra, male or female. It's really
right.
important. And, again, we've got to put away some of these old shame things. Oh my gosh, it sounds crazy. I mean, I could go into more detail actually about other parts of the body that require sun, and you probably can guess what I'm talking about. Yes, it really does make a difference to libido and to functionality. And so, again, nylon shorts and plastic shorts, or the
Sure.
synthetic stuff. I mean, that we should be back on nylon, on organic, Egyptian cotton, proper cotton, or bamboo. I mean, these things, there's a whole list of stuff we're relearning, and we have to slowly start implementing it into our daily lives, because when we do, we become much more
Yeah. You know,
activated.
yes, absolutely. There's a lot of people that are afraid with Three Eye Atlas as well, because scientifically it does have a strange um, path that it's taken. It's emitting some type of methane. We're hearing it changed color. I think it's blue at the last, and then they're saying that NASA's not releasing images of it intentionally. Do you think this is all just psyop stuff or
Some of it is. I mean, for me, I was very interested that when President Trump called that meeting with all those generals,
Mhm.
a lot of stuff was taken off air, and the people weren't allowed to have full access. Not that we ever did, by the way, have access to all this. I mean, NASA, I believe in Hebrew, does mean to deceive. Just, just,
Yeah.
just to be clear, I for many years haven't believed anything that NASA puts out. And I have,
Absolutely.
I have some pretty evolving views on the moon landing and Antarctica, and let's just leave it at that today. But it's definitely not the NASA narrative that I subscribe to, and I think I represent a majority of people, quite frankly. So I think we have to really go in on ourselves, work through the heart. I don't think this great awakening has been uh, what's the word? It has real purpose. It has real meaning, real energy behind it. It hasn't
Mm,
been for just some sort of thing that's happened and suddenly we're all going to be eaten up by reptiles. Yes, I'm aware of the great playbook of Project Bluebeam, of course. I'm very
yes,
aware
absolutely.
of the holograms that both light and dark can project into the sky. Again, back to the knife. Are we going to use it for
Right.
ascension or descension? I think we have to be very mindful, and I speak now to the Christian community. Don't don't believe everything you see. Understand that technology is way more sophisticated than you and I can even begin to imagine. We are over 100 years behind in understanding the technologies that have been extant on our planet since the early 20th century. That is a fact.
Mm,
That is a fact. And so I speak again to the Christian community here that you really have to take a deep breath and realize that there's a lot of playing going on both sides, but the end result for the people and for our
mm.
country in America and the world and for humanity is a rise and success of our consciousness and
Yes,
a rise
absolutely.
in a better earth for our families and our children, and less programmed, more connected to nature, less synthetic, more organic, and this entity is here to support that. That is my 2 cents. I can't give you data proof, but I can certainly tell you astrologically and numerologically, it is definitely highly supportive.
Yeah, I mean, they did release some information about it, that the trajectory and how it passed behind the sun relative to the Earth. That's called the what? The perihelion?
Perihelion. Perihelion.
Perihelion, right. So that was like that seemed to be like a deliberate maneuver to avoid close observation when it was supposedly at its brightest. I don't know, it seemed stealthy like for 3i Atlas to do that. So for me, there's a good possibility that it's definitely some type of alien vessel. And like you said, maybe we just can't see it because it might be in the other realms or other dimensions where we can't photograph it or see it.
Yeah,
So,
I like the word because alien still carries such a negative languaging in the
mm,
collective consciousness, especially amongst people of faith, of religion. And I would say beneficent, benevolent, non-terrestrial, or hybrid
mm,
terrestrial success. Again, this is going to sound some quite
I
far-fetched.
like that.
Some people are
Yeah.
going to find what I'm about to say quite far-fetched, but again, it is true that the secret space program, from way back from the 1930s onwards, has allowed some human beings to be off planet and to explore through the deep underground military bases and other technologies, the waters, zero point energy, and some space travel, and maybe to explore beyond the ice wall of Antarctica and all this sort of stuff. I think we have to be open here as we brave into the age of Aquarius to a much bigger concept of reality. And again, we're all in this. Try not to go into the fear. I now say this to your audience. Try not to allow the mainstream media, which its whole job is to keep you at a low frequency through fear. It's called the loosh. They can control you much more easily and they can siphon that energy from you if you're in fear. Instead, if you stay in your creativity of a higher frequency, use music, listen to Gregorian chants, listen to Mozart or Beethoven, tone in your bath or in your shower, activate your whole aura and your light code. So this is real. This isn't
Mm,
mumbo jumbo. And the more we can do that, the more fast we as a species can really take back power to ourselves and have pure creativity, because we can be truly authentic. And you can't love without being truly authentic. Otherwise, it's codependency.
mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. What is the role of the mystic in astrological terms? Because that's I've heard that talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, the role of the mystic. in some ways, you see, the mystic tends to be on the side of society more, where the priest, you see, is often holding something more doctrinal
Hmm.
in more mainstream religiosity. The mystic tends to be more inward outward. I'm not saying the priest isn't, but I think the role of the mystic has always been able. I mean, let's use the movie like The Lion King and the archetype
Mm.
of the monkey. If you remember the movie, the monkey sits in his tree and he draws, and he's an artist, and he's a shaman, and he can see things. He can see through the veil. You know, in a way, it is the Essene, if you like. Jesus follows the Essene. It's the archetype of having the ability to perceive through different timelines, to be more open like a child, and you're not conditioned by the regular norms of Saturn society. The
Mm.
mystic is able to see beyond the veil and bring some of that hidden knowledge back to we the people. That's what the mystic does, I
Oh, I
suppose.
love that. Now, do all objects, interstellar objects, like when you do readings for folks, do you take them into account? Because I'm sure we always have some kind of object floating about, right? That's huge. I mean, it may
Yeah,
not be like Three Eye Atlas, but
no, I mean, I do. I mean, obviously, I work
no,
with the asteroids as well. I mean, it
right?
depends on when you're born. I mean, obviously, people being born now. It's very good. This is a very good point, actually.
Hmm.
So let's take someone born in 2025.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that energy, especially now with the perihelion we've just had, that energy is going to be a factor. And I suspect the children being born in the last 6 or 7 months are going to be very high frequency. So let's test that. Let's go.
Mm.
Let's. I say this out to your audience, and hopefully those children won't be corrupted through false vaccinations or different types of metals
Yeah.
in them. If they are allowed to be to stay connected to source creator, to God, they're going to be bringing in some pretty powerful love light codes to help with our planetary ascension. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we refer to them as starseed children. I know they exist. I met one who it was incredible experience. So that would be great to benchmark, like in 10 years or 5 years from now, what these children are going to be like. Because I thought I saw a video where you mentioned that like all the clairs are going to be enhanced during this time. Did you say something to that effect? Like clair consciousness, clair cognizance, all the clairs.
I did. I basically feel all the clairs are there. They've been hidden. They've been suppressed. We all tend to be more dominant in one or two of them. I mean, yes, some people have all four. But like, for example, I'm a visual artist as well as an audio artist. I definitely tend to see things. Um, I'm not sure, actually, funny enough, even though I'm a musician, I'm not sure I necessarily hear things. It's an interesting thing. I don't tend to hear something come into me. It
Right.
comes in through my crown, and it's almost like claircognizance. Everyone's going
Yes.
to do it differently. I think, again, part of the conversation is for us to be open to these
Mm,
ancient technologies within ourselves.
right.
And the child, again, I can't implore you all enough to allow the child to come out in the curiosity. It's such a key term, curiosity. Play around with it. Go back into nature, because when you're in nature, the clairs tend to come in more because your frequency aligns with Gaia, Mother Earth. I'm sitting with you barefoot here, and I walk a lot. I was outdoor all day in the garden helping my friend plant in her greenhouse some winter crops, garlic and onions and stuff,
Oh, nice.
and barefoot all day. The clairs come in better when we're reconnected to nature. If
Yes,
we're going to put on
absolutely.
the plastic shoes and the rubber soles
Oh,
and sleep on plastic bed sheets, the clairs are
yes.
not going to come in so well.
Yeah, they sell grounding shoes now, which I'm so
Yeah.
tempted to buy a pair of those. So what do you have? You have a retreat happening. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm doing a number of different retreats next year. I've got a small one in Mexico. I'm going to be hopefully doing one in Sri Lanka. I may be taking some people to Bhutan,
Ooh.
but they're not sort of fully sketched. They're not all fully fledged out yet. I mean, I think the main thing for me really at this stage is sharing like I'm doing today, a lot of these insights to give people hope, because to me it's based on astrological cosmological truth of our destiny to ascend
Mm,
to higher realms and to join, quite frankly, join a greater galactic family, which is so aligned with Christianity in my heart, in my mind. And then, of course, doing my private readings. I mean, I do have an academy, George H. Lewis Academy, where I teach some of this esoteric stuff. But at the moment, I'm not actually teaching any large courses. I did a lot of that last year. I'm particularly enjoying painting. I'm doing a few painting commissions. I'm painting my some lovely archetypes at the moment. I've
mm,
just painted the full card in it for the tarot, and I'm painting a number of different archetypes and doing my private readings.
wonderful. Because I know I saw your brochure for, I think it was Acapulco, right?
Yes,
It looks so amazing.
thank you. No, it's
How
going to
long is that? Like a week or
just a
something?
5-day retreat.
5
Yeah. So
days?
yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, aside from that, do you have any plans on writing a book or creating video content for us? Like, you must be thinking something to
I think
work on.
if I could find someone to help co-create with the sort of the video and the technology, I mean, I think for me, the challenge has always been the technology. I mean, I
Mm,
want to redo my website. I'm going to do it. I think I found someone to help me, but it takes a while, and the
yeah,
technology aspect isn't easy. But
it
I'm
is.
getting.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Well, George, thank you so much. That was such a brilliant analysis. And I'm so blessed to be able to speak with you about and the folks in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I know you will come back, right? We need to have another discussion about what I mentioned earlier. So thank you so much, George. It's truly a blessing knowing you.
Me too, Caroline. You're a beautiful soul, and you
Thank you.
have a really lovely community. Thank you for having me on today.
Of course. And we will be in touch soon. Thank you so much, dear.
Bye.
Bye bye. So I'm just amazed every time I talk to him. He's always such a plethora of information, especially when it comes to astrology. And I can't wait to book a reading with him. That is something I'm so going to do. So George has this has been a truly expansive conversation. We moved seamlessly through some of the hard data, some things that are difficult to understand astronomically, but I think that now we've been able to tie it together and bring some enlightenment to this topic, some cosmic awareness. We've explored some of the anomalies and fueled some of the conspiracy theories, but I think George nailed it right on the head. This is an energetic entity. He used words to describe it before brilliantly, that it's benevolent. I truly believe that as well. And I want to give him a wholehearted thanks every time I speak to him. It's always such a wonderful learning experience. I have to like play it back because I take notes after we're done. There's so much to remember. But thank you so much again, George. It's truly a blessing knowing you. And whether it is an alien spaceship or a comet or asteroid, I think that it's definitely going to be beneficial to our consciousness and humankind. So, thank you, everyone in the chat. Everyone, Carrie, Heidi, Kevin, all you guys out there. Blessings. Thank you so much. And I will see you tomorrow. I have a really exciting show tomorrow. I'm going to be talking to Amber Kay, and we're going to be discussing lithomancy and divination and the magic of stones. So that's going to be really cool. She wrote an awesome book on that, and I can't wait to be able to ask her a million questions about it. We all know the power of stones and gems, and I think everyone, thank you, Heidi. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. So, 3 o'clock tomorrow, that's Friday. So, please be sure to join us. And thank you so much for supporting the United Public Radio Network and Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. God bless everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.